Hi guys, it's Kirsty. I wanted to talk about reframing OCD, so reframing the way we view OCD. And the reason I wanted to talk about this is because this was something that was very helpful to me in my recovery, particularly when I found myself being stuck on the topic of recovery itself. As I've mentioned previously in another video, this is a theme in itself for me, really, the fear of OCD itself. I struggled to accept having OCD. I was afraid of going back to square one. I was afraid of being stuck with it forever. I was afraid of what effect it would have on my life. What's it going to go after? What topics it going to go after next? Speaking to other people with OCD, or learning about it further, am I going to catch other people's themes or thoughts and be stuck on that? So what other impacts is it going to have on my life? I was terrified of that. But in addition to being terrified, I also was incredibly sad about it as well. I would absolutely despair that that was the way that my life was. I would despair on, about the way it made me feel sometimes, the way it made me feel about people that I love. And I would feel sorry for myself, to be honest. It would feel self-pity, I suppose, which isn't particularly helpful. In addition to the despair, anxiety, sadness I felt, I would say it actually fueled anger for me as well. The frustration that comes with feeling anxious all the time and being tired of that. But also just feeling angry. Why do I have this? Why do I have this thing that they say can't be cured? They say you can recover, but it's really hard and I'm not recovering at the moment. So identifying that was the thing that I was kind of really stuck on, was acceptance of OCD itself, was very, very helpful, because I knew that I could perhaps target then how I viewed OCD. This is not necessarily, we're never going to like it. We're never going to make very, very good friends with OCD. But these are some things that helped me personally make peace with OCD and helped me move forward from the phase in recovery where I was scared of OCD itself. So with Rob's help, I started to look at disputing how awful having OCD really was. So really starting to question, is having OCD really as awful and terrible as I had previously thought? Because I clearly had thought it was awful and terrible, hence why I felt so upset, anxious, sad, angry, frustrated about it. And in order to dispute how awful it really is and really question that, we started to look at any gains that I may have had from my OCD recovery journey. Now, this is not saying that having OCD is a bundle of laughs. We're never going to be besties with OCD, but in order to view OCD in a less polarised way as being 100% awful, we needed to look at some positive things that may have come out of the OCD recovery journey, perhaps. Without OCD, there is no OCD recovery journey. So one of the first things that I thought of, actually, is this whole new community that I found out of desperation, looking for help with my OCD. I found this incredible community and learned so much, not just about recovery from mental health difficulties, but on various other things that helped me in my life, like having more self-compassion. And I learned about treating myself better and self-care and work-life balance and various other things that seemed to escape me prior. I met some really, really incredible people, people that I've got so much respect for because of how brave they are and how much grit that they've shown. Some of the people that I was in the WhatsApp group with, where we would support each other through exposures, to be able to cheer some of these people on when they were facing difficult exposures, to me is a huge privilege, and also incredibly touching having them cheer me on when I'm doing my exposures, because nobody understands the difficulties of having OCD like another OCD sufferer. And I appreciate the fact that if you didn't have OCD in the first place, you wouldn't need to find these resources. But I was able to meet people and make new friends and have some experiences that otherwise I wouldn't have had without having OCD. I went to an art gallery of one of my friends that I made in our OCD recovery WhatsApp group, which I wouldn't have previously done. But I got to do that because of this journey that I've been on. Another gain for me, which was a huge one, was quitting vaping, which was a huge crutch for me in any stressful times in my life. I'd been wanting to quit this for years, and Rob has suggested it when we were working together. He said, working through giving up some of your crutches. And I actually took the approach of the Brain Lock book. So that was something that I'd read. Many of us with OCD will have read that. It speaks about how you would identify your thought, label it as intrusive thought or craving in this case, reattribute it as what it is, it's chemicals in your brain or something, and then refocus. So OCD recovery, there is more involved in it than just labelling thoughts, etc. There's, the acceptance piece, many more things. But I did apply this principle to my addiction to vaping, and it really helped when I had a craving. I was able to move on from it. So to be able to learn these kind of mindfulness techniques, you can apply that to different areas of your life, which is useful. Another thing that I found is my ability now to tolerate uncertainties. An example of this was actually this year, the start of the COVID-19 pandemic. Obviously a hugely scary thing for everybody in the world. Many of us have never seen anything like this in their lifetime. But I was much less anxious than a lot of people around me because the uncertainty just didn't make me feel as uncomfortable as it did other people, simply because I was used to facing uncertainty every day with the various themes, whatever the relative theme that I was stuck on at the time. We do find that we come out of this journey with the skill of being able to tolerate that uncertainty, and with that, maybe being more comfortable with the idea of change than some people may be. Another thing is the real resilience that you learn in the OCD recovery journey. The fact that it's not linear, as they often say. It doesn't go like this. It goes like this, and you pick yourself back up, and then you go back down, and then you feel like you're back to square one. You pick yourself up, and everything, you've really got to get back on it and really sort of, okay, today, we'll see how it goes. It's a minute-by-minute process sometimes when you're in the worst parts of it. But that resilience that you learn, you take with you going forward, and that can really, really help you deal with other difficult life circumstances that you may have to face, because these circumstances will happen. The acceptance part that you learn in your OCD recovery journey is another thing that can really, really help you with various life circumstances. You really start to notice how other people can torment themselves about situations that for you no longer feel the need to ruminate over and give too much energy to, even if you don't particularly like it, because the acceptance that you learn in OCD recovery, it expands to the rest of your life. You start noticing it in sort of how you might react to not getting a promotion at work, or if somebody's rude to you, for example. So if you are at a point in your recovery journey where you're suspecting maybe that awfulising over the fact that you have OCD is perhaps contributing to keeping you stuck at the moment, extra frustrated, anxious and extra sad, and you're kind of finding yourself just feeling despairing, it may be worth considering looking at if you can identify any gains from your OCD recovery journey so far, even if they're just the tiniest things, even if it's say something like learning about mindfulness, which maybe you've never heard of before. Mindfulness is a skill that many people find useful in their lives, even if it's nothing to do with mental health recovery. It's something that you can use going forward. Or if perhaps you've met somebody on social media because of OCD who really makes you laugh, or something like that, or if you've introduced different things into your day, like more exercise to create more structure to contribute to your recovery, you can take that forward with you, and you know that helps you look after your body. It's just good for you. So any small gains that you can think of can help you work on gradually starting to reframe OCD as something that you can bring along with you for the ride, and it doesn't have to dictate your life, and it doesn't have to drag your mood down. But I hope this video has been of some help to somebody. Thank you for listening.